We all know that communication skills are crucial for any relationship. And when somebody has those skills, oh my gosh, they make so much of an impression to you and to me. But we've also had those moments where we're really nervous to talk with people because we don't know how our request or our message will be received. Well, this podcast, fortunately, is going to go over all the things, the science, the tips, the tricks, and the ways to make sure that you can have the best relationships that you can through the way that you communicate. And after listening to these episodes, you can do so fearlessly with confidence, knowing that you can be relatable to anybody you choose. Welcome to the Attractive Relationships Podcast. All right, welcome to another episode of Attractive Relationships. This is part 2 of the preceding episode that was right before this one about overcoming the fear of rejection. This is going to be part 2 of overcoming fear of the rejection. In part 1, we talked about how you can just lessen the rejection you're going to get in general. So if you haven't listened to that, it's really insightful, really helpful to get people to say yes more often and doing it in ways that are simple and that for some reason most people aren't doing it simply because they haven't been taught. You're going to be different. This episode is going to address what happens when inevitably somebody does say no. Because as I was leaving off in the last episode, nobody bats 1,000 when they're on sales calls, when you're making requests, when you're talking to your life partner, when you're talking, nobody bats 1,000 on getting yes all the time. And so while the last episode is to help you increase your chances of a yes, this episode is about what happens when somebody says no. And you get that sting of rejection. And this episode, to help with that, this is less about technique and this is more about you. And this is one of the secrets about being a really fearless and effective communicator that a lot of people kind of skip over, or omit altogether. Either because they've never been shown, they've never been taught, or because they look at this part and they think that requires me to do a lot of internal work and be very brutally honest with me. And that is hard for some people to do. But if there's one thing there are really just 2 points in this whole podcast that we're going to discuss, that if you could take away from this, if you're able to do and accept these 2 things, you will feel the pain of rejection far less. All right. And so here's the 2 things. One is a belief. People will accept you to the level that you have accepted yourself. And number 2, alignment with your purpose is more important than the validation from other people. Let's talk about that. First, people accept you to the level that you have accepted yourself. One of the things that I think is really hurting society in being able to accept themselves fully is when we see examples of famous people or celebrities or leaders, maybe even within your own workplace. They don't have to be famous, but maybe there's somebody with status and a title. And maybe they walk around with kind of this attitude, like, I don't care what people think. I'm just gonna be me. And they have this attitude like they don't care what other people think. And that's attractive because we would all like to have that kind of confidence where we can just walk around unaffected by what other people think about us. And the thing about it is that we're human. We do care what other people think about us. That's why we do certain things like fix our hair. I got a haircut recently, so you saw this in the video. I got a haircut because it looks good and it feels good and I want to present myself in a certain way. If I didn't care, I could just never cut my hair, right? I would never get dressed and wear clean clothes unless, you know what I mean? But we do these things because we do care what other people think. Now, we do value some people's opinion more than others, but we do care, at least to some level. And so, some of the most confident people that I've ever come across that don't allow that sting of rejection to really hit them, they don't walk around saying, I don't care what people think. They're not pretending like they don't care. They embrace the fact that they do. And so the key to not feeling rejected by others isn't about pretending like we don't care what they think. The key to not feeling that rejection from others when they say no to an offer that or a bid for connection that we give them. The key to not feeling rejected is gaining an unshakable belief about yourself and about your purpose. And that belief should be so solid that it requires zero validation from other people. Hey guys, real quick, I am sure that all of us have had the moments where we're a little nervous or afraid to talk to somebody because we don't know how they're going to respond. Are we going to be able to talk to our life partner without them getting upset? Or are we going to talk to our boss to get that raise or that interview for that job? If we ever get nervous in those moments, we have to fearlessly communicate in a way that's effective to get the things we want and need. And if you want to know how to consistently do that, there's a formula and a program on exactly how to do that. And it's called the Be Fearless and Effective Communicators Program. If you are interested in learning more about that, you can click the link that's in the show notes, or you can go to attractiverelationships.com/fearless. How do you do that? How do you get to that place where you have this unshakable belief about yourself and about your purpose that requires zero validation from other people? There are 4 steps. Now, there's different ways you might be able to articulate this, but these are the 4 that make the most sense to me. And this is what I'm going to share with you, because I can tell you, as from somebody who grew up as an only child, I didn't have brothers and sisters to validate anything that I'm doing. My mother was a single mother growing up. Then she died when I was 14. And then I lived a life of decades of people telling me what I should and shouldn't do, regardless of how I felt about myself or where my passions were. This is coming from somebody who had to do this work, because the sting of rejection and being told that you're wrong or not, you're not good enough, or you shouldn't do that because of whatever the reasons are, that went against what felt like against my soul. It required me to do this work. And if you feel something similar, I'm just sharing with you what helped me to reject that sting of rejection and transform it into something that's more positive. So here are the 4 things that helped me, and I'm passing on to you. Number 1, define your purpose. If you've listened to some of my earlier podcasts, I have referenced Simon Sinek, who wrote a New York best-selling novel that's still one of the best-selling novels, or not novels, but one of the best-selling books, called Start With Why. Read that book. Most people don't know what their purpose is. What most people do is they know what their goals are, but not their purpose. And so the difference is that a goal has an end and a purpose does not. A purpose is something that is within you that drives you every day. And it takes a little bit of time to understand what that purpose. This is the part of the work that most people don't want to do, because it does require you to be brutally honest with yourself, with where you are both good and where you are flawed. But it's a really cool process, because you start to realize since childhood to wherever you are now that there were certain things that you continuously were gravitated towards. And it was you were gravitated to those things not just because of a reward for money or a reward for praise from your parents, but it was because it was something you were naturally passionate about. So when you find your purpose, all right, so like, for example, my purpose is to help you be the best version of yourself possible. I want to help everybody be the best version of themselves possible. And that version of me allowed me to be very giving when I was involved in the church. It allowed me to be very good at being a personal trainer and a group fitness coach, because in that context, I could help you be the best version of yourself. And it also allows me to now be a communication coach that allows you to be the best version of yourself and how you communicate with others so you can get more of what you want. All right? The goals may have changed. The goals within the church, the goal as a person to become a personal trainer and a group fitness instructor, the goals, all those goals may have been different throughout the years, but my purpose to help people be the best version of themselves possible has never changed. And when you find your purpose, that is it is the most important step to have that unshakable belief about yourself that nobody can take away from you and requires zero validation. Step 2, align with your purpose every day. Once you find out what your purpose is, you might find that you're not currently aligned with it as much as you would like to be. And it may be very difficult because maybe you live with somebody that's making it difficult for you to align with your purpose. Or maybe you have responsibilities now that make it very difficult. But find some way to align with your purpose every day. So again, if your purpose is to help people become the best version of themselves, how do you do that when you go to work? How do you do that at your home life? All right, if your purpose is to help children get off to the best start possible, what can you do? Can you volunteer at a school or at a shelter or at an orphanage, as an example? Number 3, be unapologetic about your purpose, your good qualities, and your flaws. So I sum it up by saying be unapologetic. Because if you are brutally honest with yourself, you're not going to apologize for being good at something. You're not going to apologize for acting within your purpose. And if somebody only wants to focus on your flaws, they are not going to say things that you haven't already noticed and accepted about yourself. So if somebody rejects you because they're not in line with your purpose or with your good qualities, that is a them problem, not a you problem. And this kind of bleeds into the 4th step, which is find people who align with you. Remember, alignment with your purpose matters more than the validation from others. And if you are finding that there are some people that are not willing to validate your purpose and what you are wanting, and even worse, they focus on your flaws, do you really want the validation from those kind of people anyway? All right, so that's why to get to that point where you can align with your purpose every day, be unapologetic about who you are, your purpose, your good qualities and your flaws, and finding people who align with you, all hinges on you clearly understanding what your purpose is. And it's very, very freeing. It's very, very freeing. So in the program of the Fearless and Effective Communicators program that allows you to be relatable, it's not often discussed, it's not often talked about, but really the work that you do with yourself in finding your purpose will help you to stand and speak more confidently when you are asking people for anything, whether it's with something along with your purpose or with your goals, and even if you're asking for something as trivial as their advice, when you are so much more sure of yourself that you have this unshakable belief that requires zero validation from other people, you will speak more confidently to others. And if people reject you or your bids for connection or your request for help, you're going to be so much more confident in your purpose that you know that you can still thrive and succeed in chasing your purpose. So I hope this makes sense. I know this is a little bit deeper. If you are like, Rico, I know what my goals are, but I'm not quite sure what the difference between my goals and my purposes are. If you feel like your goals are there just because maybe your parents have always set those goals, or because your spouse, a significant other, has told you this is what they want, but you feel kind of empty and like this is just robbing your soul in some kind of way, let's chat about it. If you register for the Fearless and Effective Communicators program, which is free to do, by the way, there are some free bonuses. One of them will allow you to speak with me directly as of the time of this podcast, where we can maybe flesh out what that purpose is, or whatever the most pressing situation that you have regarding communication is, and we can go from there. So again, reach out. Thank you guys. If you've listened to this entire podcast to this point, thank you so much. It means the world to me, and I look forward to catching you on the next one. As we come to the end of another episode of Attractive Relationships, I want to express my gratitude to you for tuning in. Your support really does mean the world to me. Now, if this episode brought you any value, I would truly appreciate it if you shared this podcast with anyone that you think could benefit from our discussions on effective communication and relationship building. Until next time, remember, great relationships start with great communication. So stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep building those attractive relationships.